Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Get Tender, Money Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Marlene Elizabeth. I'm so happy you've joined me here today. This video podcast is all about helping you to stop under-earning and start unfolding your beautiful financial potential one brave feather at a time. Because the truth is, you are your own money wings. Now, speaking of wings, let me ask you, have you ever risked something more than what others think is safe? Have you ever dreamed more than what others feel is practical? Well, living safe is great until life nudges us and sometimes insists that we grow and stretch. Now, most of us are definitely not comfortable with change, but when it becomes an issue that's important enough to us, the impossible becomes possible. And soon we discover, as the beautiful saying goes, that a ship is safe in harbor, but that is not what ships are built for. So that's why I'm so excited that you're tuning in today for my interview with my special guest, Teri Bybee. She's the founder of the RePatterning Initiative. And today she's going to share some beautiful insights, not only about her relationship to money, but also about how important it is for us to continue to take risks in our life to keep growing into a very healthy life.
Welcome to Let's Get Tender, Money Conversations That Matter, a video podcast series with certified money coach Marlene Elizabeth, with amazing weekly guests who share their inner challenges, personal triumphs, and inside tips and strategies so you can prosper, lead, and love bravely in business and life. So get comfy and get ready to grow money.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited for our guest today, Teri Bybee. Welcome to the show today, Teri.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. When I first discovered you and what you do, I just couldn't wait to have you on the show. So thank you for being here. And before we get started, I would love to share just a little bit about who you are and what you do. So Teri Bybee is the founder of the RePatterning Initiative and Women Who Risk, which she founded to shatter the invisible forces that keep women stuck, like perfectionism, extreme caution, and triangulation. We're going to have to hear more about what that is. She brings her track record as an accomplished facilitator with 20 years of experience teaching, training, and coaching. Teri has an immense desire to support women in joyfully taking risks. I love it. And overcoming the fear and personal devastation that's caused from playing it safe. The endless nagging perfectionist that's inside of most of us women prevents us from realizing our potential. And so Women Who Risk is all about rising above these old patterns that no longer serve us so that we can finally embrace all of our power and all of who we are as women. Beautiful, beautiful. So Teri, once again, welcome to Let's Get Tender.
Thank you. This is one of my absolute favorite topics, really, when it comes to women and risk. So I'm excited to explore that with you.
Yes, and so Teri, before we get started, what actually led you into this really interesting work that you do?
Well, it's one of those stories, I'll say, since story is kind of the underpinning of a lot of what I do, in that you don't really realize that what it is that drives you. You don't know the why of things. Oftentimes when you start out working with some of these issues and some of these challenges of life, and the more you delve, the more deeply you're willing to look, the more vulnerable you allow yourself to be, then you can actually get to the seed of the story. And so part of what I figured out is that I spent a good portion of my life really, you heard that perfectionism line that was in my bio. Well, I was the perfect daughter. I was the perfect sister. I was the perfect woman worker, woman, friend, whatever it was, realized that I had let responsibility and perfection drive my life. And so what I realized is that I only went so far, because if you have to be perfect, you can't take risks. You can't allow yourself to be vulnerable. You can't make mistakes. And that really was a huge eye opener to realize that I had played it so safe through life because I was playing by the rules, that I wasn't taking any risks to step outside, challenge myself, even be more of what I knew I could be. That risk was the underpinning of everything that I had done through life, whether it was what held me back, what limited me, or those few times that I actually stepped outside of that comfort zone and took a risk and watched my life just blossom. So yeah, I just figured out risk was that key that we wanted to turn in the lock to live life. And I'm so sorry, I just knocked my ring against that. But just to really be able to live life, live life.
I love it. I love it. You know, lately we've had I don't know if you're familiar with the musical Wicked, but we've had that lately in our community. And it just reminds me what you're talking about is this sense of defying gravity, you know, where you get tired of listening to what everyone else says is the right way, the right path, the right whatever. And you try to fit into that box until you start feeling like you're suffocating. You're not really making any progress or growing at all in your life. And so you start to take these risks, these little baby small risks that help us to really re-engage and be connected to life. So I love this. I love this work that you do. It's so important, and it's especially important around the conversation that we're about to have around money, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when we are in business, it's about taking measured, calculated risks, but it is about taking certain risks and not being foolish, of course, but you know, doing our homework, doing our research, but taking that step, taking that leap of faith to fly. And so I know that when we are in business, and if we're struggling in business, if we find ourselves stuck, a lot of times, you know, we have all these things in place. We know our ideal client. We know we have our product. We have our systems in place. We have everything it takes, and yet we're still not making the money that we need to make in our business. And so that's why I find that it is so important to talk about then our relationship to money, because without knowing our relationship to money, how can we truly thrive in our business? And so one of the best ways to start, you know, diving into our relationship to money is knowing our money story. So one of the favorite questions I love to ask my guests is, what's your first memory of money?
Well, I'm actually going to take it back a little further than that. I love this type of question because as you can see in the name of my business, RePatterning Initiative, it's really about discovering your patterns, your money story in this case, and figuring out what you need to do to shift those patterns. So part of what I deal with my energy psychology, dealing with these patterns, is you have to first kind of discover what some of the patterns are. And it's not always conscious. So my first story around money is something that happened when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I don't actually have a conscious memory of it. But the story has been told many times, and I know I was absolutely there and experiencing it. So just to give you a recap of that story, my parents they came from quite challenged, financially challenged, or you might say poor backgrounds. And with that, they had their $20 that they were getting ready to do their grocery shopping with, and they couldn't find it. They were searching high and low. They looked in the vents. I mean, they looked everywhere for that $20 because that's how they were going to buy the groceries for the week. And then they see me toddling around. I got my mom's shoes on. I got her purse over my elbow. And for some reason, they decided to check in the purse. There was the $20. So I was happy. I had my $20. I was going around doing my own business. I was having a good time, but there was chaos around me. There was anxiety, there was fear, there was all these emotions that were prevalent in the situation, whether they were mine or not. When you're anything under 5 years old or so, we are whiteboards, we are empty slates, and everything that happens around us gets imprinted. So all of a sudden, this anxiety, this fear around money became mine. So though it's not a conscious pattern, it was a pattern that was set very early in life that, money, whether you had it or not, because I had it tucked in my little purse, is something that could cause all kinds of anxiety and fear.
Gosh, Teri, you bring up this really powerful point about the deep level, the subconscious, and how deep that is. And even though you were so little, but it's still there. It's still there, impacting your relationship to money. So in moving forward, and especially as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, have you identified maybe one limiting belief around money that has been challenging for you in your business?
Actually, yes, because as I mentioned, that one was more of an unconscious pattern that was set. I have a very clear one that was set. I was probably around 10 years old. We were on a family trip, and parents in the front seat, my sister and I in the back seat, and my parents were talking about something financial. And I don't remember the particulars at all. However, I had leaned forward kind of between the seats and asked a question, and my dad immediately said, "It is none of your business." And that, realizing, moving forward and then looking back, that was absolutely the belief that I had set in stone, because I remember that one moment so clearly, that money was not my business. Finances was none of my business. And then going forward, that belief became inherent in so many ways. And I will probably talk more about that. But yes, that money is none of my business was that limiting belief that was so strongly set, and definitely something that has challenged me a lot through life until I got to the point where I really realized it was even there, to be able to do something about it.
Oh, and this is so common just in general in society, the taboo around talking about money, right? The two subjects, money and sex. You just don't talk about it. And yet people are more inclined to talk about sex than they are money. And as a mom, I'm a mom to an 11-year-old little girl right now. And there are two important conversations that I need to have with her: money and, yes, life, right? Around
Right.
her relationships, her intimate relationships, that, to set her up for success. And so I can see and we can see just how important it is that if we're not able to talk about these conversations, we not only limit our own success, but even in our relationships that are important to us, we need to be able to talk about these things. And so Teri, what did you do then? What kind of brave action steps, what kind of risks did you find that you started taking to test this belief, this limiting belief, and start overcoming it?
Well, actually, I had a really wonderful experience in that I participated in a women's empowerment process. It was a 9-month process, and one weekend was devoted completely to money and our money story. So that term was really resonated with me because it was something that I was very familiar with, having worked with. And so it was through that I started doing that research, looking back in my own life, talking to my parents, which, just as you kind of alluded to, was an interesting conversation to have to actually go there, and just looking at how life had played out. Because by that time I was, it was about, I don't know, 20 years or so ago. So I was in my mid 30s, late 30s, figuring out that at that stage in life, that these ways I spent money, the ways I earned money, the ways I saved money were things that were really set up for me early on. And a lot of that, just wanted to kind of touch into something you mentioned. One of the things with money being taboo, that young girl that I was sitting in the back seat asking that, the absolute opposite of what should have been said to me was said with, "It's none of my business." Now, it may not have been, I may not have needed to be part of that conversation. And that's, that there's nothing good or bad about that piece. However, just as you're talking about wanting to talk to your daughter, we have to open up the conversation about money so that we can look at money in the ways of something other than, all the old sayings of it's evil and power hungry people want money and et cetera, all those different ways. How can we look at money as what it is, the tool that it is? So the empowering process of even looking at my patterns, looking at what my mom did that I also learned, what my dad did with money that I also learned. And of course, they are, when we're children, they're like gods to us. How they do things is how they should be done. And remember that responsible perfectionist that I was? Of course, I wanted to learn their patterns perfectly. So just that discovery of what pattern has been set. And at that time, I'd already started my energy psychology studies, which is really what I use to help people develop their risk muscle, is figuring out what your patterns are, where the dysfunction is, and what can you do about it. So that was a huge process for me, looking at money in such a new way on just self-discovery. Because how do you know you have a problem if you haven't actually had a realization about it? Unless you start exploring that there was something that might be a little off kilter. It's just so interesting. The whole process is so interesting.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful, especially in the work you're doing to help free people so that they can unfold their potential. In my case, the work I do, their financial potential, but just potential in general, that freedom. And also how wonderful that you gave yourself this gift to attend this women's empowerment event and also get the chance to just focus entirely on money. That's amazing, and also so beneficial for your business now, so valuable for the work you do in your business. So then over time, Teri, or even maybe from that event, did you then develop a kind of this empowering belief around money that is able to help you to soar in your business?
Absolutely. And it's a little, I don't want to say cliche. That's not exactly true. What we did through the process and what I then, of course, expanded and grew from that is that money, of course, is a tool, but more than that, money is energy. And whenever we pay somebody for something, it's an energetic exchange. Well, when we have gratitude for something that we've received because of the money we pay, it's a form of love. And so then we've got energy as love. And then if we bring it all together again, money is love. So anytime we pay someone, anytime we receive something, as far as, we'll call it a monetary exchange in this case, but it's an exchange of love at the deepest root of a sharing from the heart, and believing that really all energy is love. That just having to do with my belief in, that something bigger than ourselves, and that what moves the world, what moves the universe is love. So just bringing it down to, well, how can I start looking at how I participate in this exchange, whether it be monetary or emotional or mental, all these different levels of exchange that we can do. This sense of bartering that we do is to bring it to that place of, what is it I'm choosing to share with people when I hand them a dollar bill? Well, I want to share love with that. And it even got to the point that one of the little tricks that we did, or tips, however you want to look at it, is we wrote a little money sign and put a heart around it on the dollar bill, on the check that we were writing. And I actually still do that on all my checks, is I still put that little symbol of money with love around it, because that is what I'm wanting to send. Even when I'm paying bills, I am grateful for the fact that I can pay my bills. I'm grateful for the fact that I haven't put it on invoices for my business, but it's still in the back of my mind. It's still the energy that I choose to put out when I'm doing that exchange, even with clients, is underneath it all, it's all about sharing of love. So yeah, money is love. That's my
I
that's my
love it.
belief that I choose to work with.
Yes, I love this. I love, love, love this, especially because, earlier on when you talked about your earliest money memory, which goes back to, really unconscious time and memory. And I was going to ask, because there's always an emotion that's connected with that memory, right? And whatever emotion it is, whether it's fear or anger or whatever it is, love is that healing balm over those emotions. It's that very powerful force that helps us to keep our emotions, well, to heal, but also to be able to keep our emotions, in balance and in a way that serves us rather than keeps us stuck.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I love what you're sharing here. And Teri, let me ask you as well. So in your business, and we learn so many lessons in our business. Is there any one particular lesson that you've learned as a business owner that you find is helpful and beneficial that you can apply to your relationship with money?
Really, it's realizing that exchange, that the exchange that's going on is looking deeper in that and really understanding your own intentions when it comes to the exchange. Because as mentioned, money is the easy one from the perspective of looking at it, because we hand somebody something, we get something in return. But what about that emotional exchange that we have? What about the conversational exchange we have? So it's really having intention around what you're meaning to do. So it's looking at it from a conscious level, really. So that's the tip that I took forward from what I learned, is bringing consciousness to everything that I do around money, around this exchange in business as well. And so I kind of challenge people. I want you to think about what you're doing beyond what you're doing. So it's a little bit of a kind of a trick in that, okay, so I want to make sure that I get the product across. I want to make sure that I get my invoice paid. But what's really underneath that? Kind of the why, And so since money is love, if that's so what is it that I'm wanting to really send out, whether it's through my eyes, through my voice, through my email, through that invoice, whatever it is? Well, I want to be the beacon of love, that people can feel it, that they receive it, and that in all hopes that they respond in the same vein, so that we're spreading it throughout the world. Because I'm here not only to make my own life better, because of learning to love myself at a deeper level, taking that risk to really see myself, love myself, and then put myself out there so that other people can see that experience of love, that they too can have that experience. So it's really about repatterning those issues, those limitations, whether it be about money, as we've mentioned, relationship, whatever it might be, whatever your risk is. Some people don't have risk with money, and that kind of blows me away, because that's been my thing. You got to figure out what your risk is, so that you can really, in a sense, look it in the eye, stare it down, get to know it, really have a good grasp of what was it that created those patterns of dysfunction in your life, so that we can then look at what is needed to shift that. And of course, it's love, but we have to work at it from different angles for, whatever each individual or each company's challenges, because it goes to that depth. Now, I may not talk about it as love per se when I'm talking with business, though I'll probably sneak it in here and there. But if I'm talking to the CEO suite, I may be speaking about it in a slightly different way, because I want them to get it at their level, right?
Oh,
They
absolutely.
take it
Yeah.
in. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's and you do, I mean, this is a really important point when you talk about business, is knowing your why, because that's what ultimately connects to the other person's heart, right? And that's, like for me, I know that in the work that I do, I do it to be able to help people stand in their value and really know their value more than they've ever dreamed possible. Because when it comes down to it, money is about so much more than just money. Like you said, it's love, and there's so many faces of love. So, I mean, it's endless. It's endless, as endless as the sky. So, Now, so Teri, what would you say then that you wish that you would have learned or known about money that you know now when you first started your business?
I think it goes back to that whole exchange. We so often get locked in what I have or don't have, right? I don't have the money to buy that certain thing, or I don't have the money to invest in that certain software, or, I mean, you can get locked in the haves or don't haves rather than looking at it from the perspective of money being a tool as well. So how can I best utilize that tool? So I think that was probably one of the eye openers for me early on in business, is rather than looking at the money as the bars on the window that might be caging me in, looking at it more as, okay, it's the tool that I can use to unlock that window, to open it wide, to, or lock it. I mean, because it can go either way, right?
Yes.
Um, so again, understanding your own story, understanding your own patterns, so you can best utilize this tool of money, this tool of exchange. And again, it's so much broader than money. Money being that key that we get locked into, though, that helps close down our minds so that we're not seeing the exchange on a broader level. So it's so interesting. And that's part of the reason I was so excited to be talking to you, is because of your focus on money and knowing that one of the greatest patterns of risk that, especially as women, oh my gosh, as women, is around money. It's around salary. It's around valuing, being really I keep coming back to that key, being the key of how do I value myself, and how do I, in a sense, just cut out what others have put out there of value for women. That whole, we're 7 to 10 cents below per dollar at least. Uh, I can't focus on that. That's not going to help me. The risk is me seeing the value in myself, whether anyone else does. The risk is really stepping into my own, being willing to show myself, really being willing to buck those patterns that are set up by a more patriarchal system, the patterns that are set up in society, those patterns we set up sometimes in the familial unit, of that there's certain roles you have to play. Remember, I was the dutiful, responsible, perfect daughter. Well, that was kind of limiting. There's not a lot of room for exploration there. There's not a lot of room. You don't even get to look at your patterns, because there was a pattern that was handed to you, right? There was a specific set of patterns that they said, well, this is the way women are supposed to be. You're not allowed to this, or this. In fact, you have to be the nice girl, right?
Yes,
No
yes,
bucking the system.
yes. And the rewards, the benefits, right? From taking one brave step at a time, one small risk at a time are tremendous, right? I mean, what's the price you would put on freedom, or even on the improvement of your health, or in your relationships with your husband, with your wife, with your children, with your mom, dad, even
Right.
your work relationships. It's tremendous, the rewards that you receive when you do take those risks. And it's also tremendous the suffering that we put ourselves through when we are stay stuck in that fear. So that's why I'm so excited that there are people like yourself working with folks, Teri, to help them unfold their financial potential and their potential in general by repatterning these limiting habits or beliefs or patterns in their life. So how can people learn more about you and what you do, and connect with you, Teri?
Marlene, it's such a pleasure to be here, I have to say. And they can go to my website, teribybee.com. What I really love, absolutely love, is anyone that's listening to this actually go to the womenrisksurvey.com and fill out the survey, because I continue to gather more and more information, helping to hone and focus the direction that I go, sharing that love, I'll just throw that out there, to really help support women, whether it be through the forums, or through the possibility of a 30-minute discussion with me, so that you can actually do a risk discovery for yourself so that you can discover what dysfunctional patterns you have around risk, because that's the first step, is figuring out you have a pattern that is not serving you, so that you can then look at what are the possibilities if I shift that pattern, just like you were talking about, the freedom of knowing you have an issue and then addressing that issue. Because if you don't know you have the issue, you're just stuck in it. You're stuck in that perfectionism. You're stuck in that level of responsibility that doesn't allow you to be creative, that doesn't allow you to step into your own, both at an individual level as well as in your business.
Yeah.
Because if we can't do it for ourselves, do you think we're doing it for our business? If you can't take the risk to look at your own dysfunction patterns, whatever they may be, money, being seen, that's a huge one for entrepreneurs. Even though we're saying we want to get out there, we're saying we want to have a business, so often you'll see that they haven't done a whole lot to be seen if you're not connecting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's an opportunity on my website that you can actually connect with me and get that free 30-minute risk discovery strategy session, and kind of start your own journey of risk and really learning how risk can serve you. That's the huge benefit of the work we do, is find your dysfunctions, the dysfunctional patterns around risk, so that you can break them and create something new and beautiful for yourself.
Oh, exciting. So exciting. Well, I really encourage everyone who's watching today, please check out Teri's website. And again, thank you so much, Teri, for being here today.
Thank you. I so enjoyed our time.